And I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, we're live.
Oh, hi. Hey, everybody. Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Chase of Prophecy on UPRN Radio 105.3. Jenny's not here tonight. I guess she's feeling a little bit under the weather. So I'm here with my co host, John Ventry, Jay Sledgehammer. How are you guys doing?
Good,
Happy
good.
Torture
Everything's
Tuesday,
good.
as we already seen there with the intro.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Speaking of Torture Tuesday, I was at that Froggy 104.3 on Monday morning, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there, and we're getting ready to go on.
Hello,
Hi,
Anna.
Anna, and ready to go on, and my mic wouldn't work. Okay, and the first thing that popped into mind was Torture Monday. You know what I mean?
Oh
So what
my.
we had to do was, as the music was playing, go into another room and tape it, my segments, and then he would put it into the feed. So that was like kind of crazy. Um,
Jeez.
yeah, it was. First thing out of my mouth, and he even heard it, Torture Monday.
But you were at
So,
their studio, right?
yeah, yeah.
Wow, I'm surprised they didn't have another mic or something to use.
They had two other mics that wouldn't work. Just his was
Hey,
working.
you got something attached to you, Sean.
It,
It's probably demonic.
Ah,
probably.
you got something attached to you. I'm
What do you
telling
think,
you.
John? It's probably something really demonic.
Oh, absolutely,
God
absolutely.
only knows. So I did that, and then I had to go to work. So, but that was my Halloween. How about yours, Jason? How was yours?
Oh, it was real good. We took the kiddo trick or treating over at grandma's neighborhood, and like I said, he got a lot of candy, so I had to dad tax it, of course. You know,
How much?
oh, he got one of those bigger pumpkin things full.
Uh huh.
So it'll be there goes the diet.
John?
Good. Mine was good. My days are all fairly similar. I get up in the morning, check my emails. I do my Never Socialist newsletter. I take about an hour and a half on that every morning.
Hmm.
I put that out once, about every 4 or 5 days. I publish that, and read the paper, eat, go to the gym, come back, eat, and then it's Halloween. So, but interesting. I put the bowl of candy out, and I had 50 big Reese's and Snickers bars in there, and a sign said "Take one" because it was drizzling here.
Right.
So I put it out on a chair, big bowl, and I sat in the living room, and I could see the kids. Maybe there was 15. All 50 were gone.
Of
It was
course.
gone in before 7 o'clock. So I turned
That's
the
all
lights
right.
off. I turned the lights off, shut it down.
That's all right. We got to this one house, and there was like two teenage kids in front of our son, and then his four little cousins, right? And they're all like 4, 3, real young. So the two teenage kids, people left the bowl out. They just wiped the whole bowl out,
Yeah.
and
Ooh.
then just like took off. And it's like, are you kidding me? Like,
Well, that's the type of pranks and stuff that we used to do as kids. I don't think a lot of that goes on now, where you cause a lot of trouble and stuff. But that's all part of Halloween. Is you prank
yeah,
people? Hey, you're gonna put a
That's
bowl out?
that's that's not pranking. You do that on the 30th of October,
Yeah, I
not the
know, I know. Yeah.
31st.
It's
Especially
funny.
when kids are.
I saw my neighbor this morning. I went out to get the paper, put the mail in the mailbox. And of course, I always forget to put my trash out on Monday nights. But
don't worry, I
so
forget
my
to put it
neighbor's
out on
sitting there.
Thursdays here.
Yeah, I put it. I'm lucky. I get I put it out and it gets picked up about every 3 weeks.
Hmm.
I put a note on the calendar, trash. Otherwise, I just forget about it. But the
Thank
neighbor's
God I'm
sitting
not the only
there.
one.
Yeah, the neighbor's sitting waiting for the school bus, and the kid said something to me. Well, I went over and there was only one Snickers bar in there. I said, "Well, you're one kid. What do you expect?" And then I told the neighbor what happened, and she goes, "Yeah." She goes, she said down the street they said like three houses that the kids took, like it was one kid or whatever came right up, took the whole bowl and dumped it in his pillowcase.
Growing up, man, if I did that or any kids did that, they got their, butts whipped. You
Oh
know
yeah,
what I
your
mean?
parents. The parents
Seriously.
would beat them right there in the street.
But how
Exactly.
do you really know? I mean, I guess if the parents are with them, but you get a 12-year-old, nobody's with them. They're walking the neighborhood. They just pick
I
it all
saw,
up. You know?
I saw this video this morning. It was on Facebook. Somebody posted they had one of those like doorbell cameras,
Oh
and
Hmm.
yeah.
it showed this kid. He had to have been like probably like 8 or 9. You see him. He walks up. The people had a bowl out, right? He walks up with a backpack, sets it on the ground, unzips it, grabs the whole bowl, dumps it in the backpack, and then flips the camera off and takes off.
Wow.
Oh man,
Well,
it's
were
like,
they
oh my
talking
god.
to him? Were they talking to him at the time?
No, no, he
So they
saw the
weren't.
camera
Yeah.
there and he just gave it the finger and took all the candy and I
Freaking
was like, oh
believable.
my
So
god,
maybe those people now file a police report
stolen
for
candy.
theft.
Well,
Yeah.
you know what?
Theft.
Now's the time to go to the store and buy all the 50% off Halloween
That's right.
candy.
Well, you know what? Our store, because I was looking for our Halloween candy where I work at, and it's all gone. There was only like, believe it or not, 50 bags of candy corn.
That's why we got
Ew.
inflation.
I know. I
That's what.
know.
Did
That's
you
why we got.
see candy corn was the listed absolute worst candy
Was
for
it? I
like
didn't
the
see that.
holiday,
No.
right? Well, they
Sweet.
actually just rolled that out and put the circus peanuts in number one position. I don't think that's right. That the circus
No.
peanuts are way better than candy corn ever will
Any
be.
Hell, anything's better than candy corn.
You know what
But
you do with candy
Seriously.
corn? You throw it in the trash.
That's
I'm
it. Open the
saying that's
bag.
what, Sean. That's why we got inflation. It's like people went in, they bought up all the candy this morning, right? People
Hmm.
are buying everything they can get their hands on because they were incarcerated for 2 years with COVID.
Hmm.
And
So let's
inflation
stuff
don't
our
come down.
faces with all the candy we can.
Yeah, it's like everything's like that. They're loaded. They spend their money, they load up. But wait till you see what the Fed does tomorrow. I wouldn't
Right.
be surprised if it's a full 1 point increase instead of the three quarters.
Well, if it makes anybody happy, 3WS started playing Christmas music today.
Yeah.
Did they really
Yes.
24/7 or just off and on?
No, I don't think it was 24/7 yet. I heard a couple of other tunes on there, and I just put my Pandora on, in the truck I'm driving. I was like, I'm not listening to Christmas music already.
They'll
That's
probably
enough.
do that the whole month of December, right? They play it
Oh
constant.
yeah,
Yeah,
right
usually I
after
think it's what the day
Thanksgiving.
after Thanksgiving,
Yep.
Yeah.
Black Friday. They start playing just round the clock Christmas music, and yeah, it's that time of year for Mariah Carey to shine.
Anna Young has a question. She wants to know if anything paranormal happened.
I saw a bunch of kids dressed as ghosts.
Yeah, not in my house. My house has been quiet. I tell you, since we drove that thing out, it's been quiet.
They're probably
Only thing that's
scared of
happened
that
in my
pregnant
house.
looking alien behind you.
Only thing
Yeah.
that's happened here in the past year has been my sister and her husband and daughter came over to visit, and it's like the only thing. It's like they must be in waiting, like watching, but they sleep over, and at I guess they didn't go to bed till about 12:30, so they're saying it's about 2:30 in the morning, and there was such a loud bang upstairs in the attic. Boom! My sister, she wasn't asleep, but she heard it, and the daughter in the other room heard it and woke up and came running into the mother's, with the parents, and she says to her, "I was dreaming that the closet became a tunnel and something was pulling me into the closet, into the tunnel. And then that bang woke me up," she said. "I felt like I was like out of body being pulled into something." And then she slept the rest of the night with my sister and her husband. But, other than that, that's the way it seems to be. That there's this loud sonic boom at 2:30, 3, 4 in the morning. and sometimes wakes me up. But
That's
that
about
hasn't
the
happened
witching
for a
hour,
while.
so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the devil's hour.
Oh,
But
it might be demonic, John. You got a demon in your
well,
attic. Did you ever see
what was
Paranormal
here?
Activity?
What was
Go
here
watch
was.
Paranormal Activity. It's going to drag you up there.
Yeah, no, I don't watch that.
Put
But
baby powder on the floor. Look for hoof prints.
I gotta put one of those Ring cameras. So one of them, I have them in the house. I gotta put one in my room. Just well, I mean, it'll constantly go off because I'm turning a lot,
So hackers
changing
overseas
sides.
can watch you sleep.
No, I just wanna. I want to see what happens at night. Like
Well,
do
you
I?
know
I,
what?
I used to sleepwalk as a kid. I might be
Yeah, right. You'll
sleepwalking
probably
now. I
forget you
don't
got
know.
the cameras on, and there'll be stuff nobody wants to see.
Yeah,
Could be.
absolutely, buddy.
They won't be calling me
Jay
Big.
has a Jay
They
has a
won't call.
point
They
there.
won't call me Big John anymore.
He'll be like, "What's up, little man?"
So over the weekend, Jason, you were down at the Marcos in Uniontown. How'd that go?
Oh my goodness! I tell you what. Before we get into that, I just got to tell you, you've been right this whole time about that spirits don't like you or just scare away when you're around because
Hmm.
all the years we were there was nothing to the point that I was like, this isn't haunted at all. This year, holy crap. There was three people. I'm one of them that got hit with objects,
Oh wow.
stuff getting knocked over during tours. Uh, what else? Equipment just going absolutely crazy. Now the stuff that was thrown, I got hit twice. Now in the whole 10 years that I've been investigating, I've never been
Hmm.
scratched, knocked down, anything. I got hit with two objects that same night. Russ, he was standing in front of me in the one room. It was crazy. I just saw this thing come whipping at his head.
Wow.
Honest to God, this thing just came flying at his head from nowhere, like
Hmm.
horizontally, like it didn't fall from the ceiling. Hit him in the head, almost hit me, and it fell on the floor. And he's like, "Whoa!" I was like, "Dude, I saw that. That was absolutely crazy." And then
Wow.
there was a lady that was on the one tour in that same room. Something threw something to hit her right in the foot. She freaked out. It was awesome.
What
What is
room was that?
DeMarco's? What is
That
that?
was
DeMarco.
one of the front rooms. Were usually like most. It was next to the one that had the like the hand streaks and stuff on the window. That I remember one time I was giving a presentation in there, and a lady got like pulled into the bathroom, freaked her out.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I
She
know
went
where you're
running
at. Yeah.
off, and then I was in the other side near the kissing mirror room, and
Right.
I was telling people about it and everything, and there's just the stuff in the corner, something just forcefully just knocked it right over,
Wow.
just
Wow.
out of nowhere. I was like, everybody freaked out. It was awesome, absolutely
It's-
amazing. We actually had people run out. They got so scared. Probably
Did
about
they really?
there
Wow.
was probably about 4 or 5 people throughout the tours that night that they just took off running. But we had a nice setup. Obviously we got to eat and we set up a table. We had a psychic. We had decals to hand out to people. I had I went through and like thoroughly thought about strategic places to put everybody. So it was just like it was clockwork. Like there wasn't anybody
Hmm.
running into each other. It was
Cool.
just people up had a great time and they were like, wow, this is amazing. And
Hmm.
hopefully someday we can go back and actually investigate,
Hmm.
off tour time to
Oh
see.
yeah, you'd be like crazy. You know what? We did it twice a while back, and you do get a lot more evidence going um, back by yourselves. Just ask him, and I'm sure he'll open that door for you. John, DeMarco's is a restaurant down in Uniontown. Every year, Uniontown has a ghost walk in their town. There's
Oh,
like
okay.
six spots, six different places. They take a tour, and DeMarco's the last place to go to. And at DeMarco's, they do mini investigations, for the people who have gone through the tour.
We
Okay.
actually had two rooms for investigations this time. We had the front bay window room as well as the hand streak room, and I think one of the other guys on my team he got to experience some stuff in that room. Just he was in there by himself, and stuff just started banging around. He came out. He's
Wow.
like, "Oh my god!" He's like, "This is crazy. This is awesome. I'm scared, but this is amazing." I had
Oh,
as far as equipment, we had everything rolling other than cameras because it's kind of hard with all the people coming
Right.
around, but we had K2 set up, REM pods. We had two trip wires, two laser grids. We had the whole 9 yards. We had real nice, like antique looking lanterns to kind of really set the mood.
Right.
Most of us went in costume, as I'm sure you've
Yeah.
seen posted.
Yeah, I've seen
Only
the pictures.
Jason, but it was really good. I've never seen that place that active, especially on a tour night of
Right.
all nights, because you figure there's noise and everything else, but that was something else, something else.
Um, Little history behind the Marcos up there on the third floor where Jason is talking about. A long, long time ago, it was a brothel, okay, and was the old lady at the top of the steps waiting for y'all?
We didn't see her exactly, but I'm not sure if might have been her that might have been throwing stuff, or the father spirit of the guy that hung himself in the hanging
Mm-hmm.
in the room with the noose, which is still there.
Yep.
Uh, oh, I probably should tell people that are listening, like, what is these rooms they're talking about?
Right.
So we'll start with the kissing mirror room, and I know a couple of PPS guys. We experienced this a couple of years ago. There's a mirror in this bathroom that had all these sets of lips show up on it, and a couple years, no joke, no
No
joke,
joke,
they just
John.
showed up unexplained. Nobody knows how they got there. And a couple years ago, we counted how many sets of lips were on this mirror before we started the tours that weekend. And by the
Mm-hmm.
end of the first night, three more sets of lips showed up on this mirror, and there was three of us that counted them and double checked, and we're like, "How did this happen?"
Wow.
And our conclusion is possibly a working girl spirit from when it was a brothel,
Right.
either in a residual form where she's kind of replaying the same thing. Maybe that's where she got ready, before work or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe she's there just to let everybody know, hey, I'm still here. So
Right.
that was really cool. People really enjoyed
Maybe it
that.
was the John. Maybe
Maybe
it
it was
was
the
the
John.
John
Yeah.
that's throwing stuff like, get away from my woman. This is my time. But
Right. And then there's the noose room, which is really kind of freaky in its own. The story is approximately 30, 40 years ago, nobody knows an exact time. This noose was used by a gentleman who hung himself. There's a chase right there. Apparently, he tied it to this beam and he jumped down and he hung himself. And after the body was removed, they left the noose, and that's where it's been ever since because nobody wants to touch it.
Mm-mm.
And I'm going to be honest with you, as much as I've been an investigator, I don't want to touch it either
Right.
because I don't know. There could be something on there. But so you walk down the hall, and it's pretty cool because there's a cutout in the ceiling, and there's like a trap door up there.
Mm-hmm.
And come to find out, we found out a while ago that that's where Madam, who ran the brothel, she would hide her girls if the place was getting raided or there was bad people coming in, that she didn't want her girls in any trouble or anything. And it also doubled as a place where they kept the children of the girls while they were working,
Oh, wow.
which is which is pretty interesting. And then the front bay window room where there was a lot of activity happening, and we had one of our mini investigations. That's where the girls would be for advertisement purposes. Like they would
Right.
be in the windows doing their dances or whatever, and Johns would be walking up and down the road, and if they liked what they saw, they would come in, and Madam would either let them in or not. And apparently, she was known that if she didn't like you, if you were a bad person or you gave the girls trouble or you did stuff you weren't supposed to, she would either have you beaten, thrown in jail, or even killed. Yeah.
Oh, she's
Yeah.
she's mean.
Well, she was very, very protective of her girls at that place, and what else is she going to do? So she had bouncers or whoever she hired to take care of business, take care of business.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other room where I got hit with an object, a lady got hit with an object, Russ got hit in the head. We had a tripwire in there that was going off, and the GS2 laser grid was showing some stuff popping up out of corners. And then the room to the side of that is the hand streak room, we call it, because handprints would show up on the windows out of nowhere, just
Right.
like a regular handprint. But the thing that was odd is if you put your hand and you look at your fingers, these fingers weren't the same as ours. They were like bizarrely shaped, and we just tried to mimic it, and there's none of us could even come close to making a handprint of what we saw on these windows. And then there was a couple streaks that would appear, and that's also the room where we get a lot of REM pod hits. And there's a bathroom, and I remember this is last year, year before, there was a lady kind of standing in front of the bathroom, and we're going over some history and some stories, and she literally fell back into it. And she freaked out. She's like, something just grabbed me, pulled me in. I'm out of here. And she
Mm-hmm.
took off. So, like
I
I
think that
said,
was last year.
I think that might have been last year. But there's a lot
Yeah.
of really cool history. And, apparently there was underground tunnels that were built, and that's how they, smuggled money in. And, famous celebrities didn't want anybody to know what they were doing or where they were at and everything. So it is a very cool place and excellent food.
Yep.
Very good. Jared, he takes great care of that place. So if anybody's ever in Uniontown, Pennsylvania, make sure you look up DeMarco's and go check it out. Stop in for a drink special, dinner special, whatever. You won't be disappointed. And make sure you ask about the third floor.
Yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
sure they will. He might even let them go up on the third floor.
Maybe. I was
Maybe.
talking to him, and apparently nobody goes up there throughout the year unless they absolutely have to. And the funny thing is, nobody will go up there by themselves,
Right.
That's a
which is
good
cool.
place to keep the safe. If he's got a safe, put it up there on the third floor.
Well,
Well, it might go through the floor on the third floor.
before he made that a cigar bar in the basement, when we first started going down there, there was a little bar and like where they keep the ice machine. There was a little boy called Bubbles. I forget the story about that. Um, there's a little boy's ghost that goes around and he plays with balls and stuff like that. But the girls, the waitresses or the bar backs or whatever, they would have to take a person down with them to get ice because that's where the ice machine was. That whole place is it's a great place.
Hmm.
The whole city of Uniontown is awesome, man.
I got to tell Fred Saluga. He hangs out. That's where he hangs out, Uniontown. He was born there, I think. Fred.
Oh, really,
Yeah.
Fred?
Tell him.
Anything else happened down there? I mean, did
I met some people from Fayette Commerce, and we were talking about some things they want to be in contact about, as far as maybe possibly some filming and
hmm
investigating down there and trying to boost the area up and get some more history out. And so I was like, well, I will be in touch, sir. Thank you
well, you
very
know
much.
what? I hope that works out for you guys because we did one other place down there a while back and was the State Theater, and
I think I remember you talking about that. That was
yeah,
before
that yeah.
I think I was in the group.
But if you can, honest to God, Jason, honest to Pete, try to get the State Theater. It
Yeah,
is
I could
free.
probably talk to him and see about that.
Yeah.
The guy
The
that
only
worked there.
downfall about the State Theater was the people. They're kind of like wishy washy about people going in, especially investigating it. You know,
Ah, yeah.
I mean, I seriously had the commerce had to actually pull teeth in order for us to get in there, and we still
Oh, get
weren't.
out.
Yeah, so try to get the State
Well, I'll get
Theater.
my pliers out and start pulling. That's about all I could do. Yeah.
So, well, we're talking, as we're talking about, Jason's ordeal down there at DeMarco's. I was at work the other day and I got into a little bit of an argument with a person about, they were just like coming up to me saying, you know what? Spirits don't exist. Ghosts don't exist. And I'm thinking, and then, I just said, you know what? I'm too busy. So I left. But I thought about it and I figure I'd bring it up on this show. tonight and get your guys' opinion. Um, do you honestly think that spirits exist?
They
And this is
absolutely,
for our people out there too who are listening to the show.
they absolutely do. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, I've had so much my entire lifetime of paranormal activity. I just think what it is that some people are more sensitive to it than others. I mean, I call the other people the dull people. They don't, nothing ever happens to them their whole life. They're completely dull. They're not open to anything. I mean, if there's any spiritual, I hear it. It just, it's been like that my entire life. So it is. Now, the only question I got is that the Catholic Church when I was young used to say that there are no human ghosts. They're all demonic activity, and I don't agree with that. I think that people die, and if you weren't good enough, you're here roaming around.
Jason?
I've actually got a couple points about this that I want to discuss. That was a good question. So I believe spirits are here, and that takes me back to a possible theory that I had a while ago about because people, like when you go to talk about church and stuff, there's heaven or hell. That's it.
Hmm.
But we run into ghosts. Why? We don't know, right? And that takes me back to a theory that I just thought of, a couple months ago. I was like, well, what if, like they say, energy is not created or destroyed. So, us as living creatures, we have an energy. So, what if when we die, that energy is what actually resides here on Earth, but our actual soul itself is what goes to heaven or hell?
Oh, wow.
That
Did
could
Now
be,
anybody
and
ever
the
think of
that,
energy.
this?
that's a good theory. Now think about, well, okay, so you
Because
were
that would
saying,
explain why you could have like residual spirits that we think don't even know they're there. That's just that energy just kind of floating around.
hmm,
Maybe some of the intelligent ones maybe retained a little bit of, your life or whatever. But, as far as, that's an energy form, but then you
right,
have your soul. So to me, I put a lot of thought into it, and, I can't prove it right or wrong. Like I
right.
said, it's just a theory, but what if our energy's still here, but our soul is what goes to heaven or hell?
And it's almost like a zombie that you've taken the soul, which is the software, and it's gone. And now
Right.
this thing is kind of stumbling and wandering around with minimal abilities.
Isn't
That,
that a
that could
brain
be.
teaser if you think about it?
Could be. Yeah, it could be.
Oh,
Or the
that was,
spirit. They
But
say you have a soul and a spirit, so the spirit stays.
so there was another thing. I saw this thing the other day. It was somebody talking about ghost hunting equipment, and the point was brought up that they were arguing with somebody about finding demons or whatever. They're like, listen, ghost hunting equipment is just for ghosts. You're not going to find demons with it because it's not demon hunting equipment.
mhm,
Strictly for ghosts. And I was like, wait a second. That's kind of interesting, but aren't they all in the same realm over there because demons can just waltz right in just like spirits do? And they can pretend to be somebody that you knew or whatever to draw you in.
right.
So
That's possible.
that was an interesting.
Yeah,
Thing.
they're all from the
I didn't
same
jump in on
dimension.
that conversation. Trust me, I was like, I ain't got time for that.
Silver Moon has a couple questions, and she says, I'd like to believe ghosts exist, but I often wonder, is it just humans seeking comfort? We fear what happens after death, so we confront ourselves by thinking we can get to watch our loved ones go on.
Well, they do say that if you want something bad enough to like happen or be real, it'll happen for you. Like if you want your house to be haunted, it's going to be haunted. Is it all mind control? Like, is your mind? What do you
Ah,
think,
good
Sean? What's
question.
your opinion on there?
Who, mine?
Yeah. What do you think about
Okay.
that?
But I don't know. I kind of agree with you on that. But I don't know. I really don't have an answer for this one,
Don't
to
they
be
call
honest
that
with you.
a tulpa? Tulpa?
Well, I never
Tulpas?
heard of that.
Yeah, TULPA. That uh, you can create the things, your mind has the ability, the energy, whatever, that if you think about something, if you think that it's haunted, if you think there's ghosts, that they'll actually show up. And either you're tricking yourself like with hallucinations, or you're giving off an aura. And I think it's the aura that they can see, like whatever colors you're giving off. They can sense fear. Maybe that's a red, or anger. That might be blue or whatever. Or if you're not intimidated, maybe you give off a white aura or something. I think they see that, and I think that attracts them. But here's another thing too. If you're afraid of stuff like that, and it's like even when those demons were in my house, I'd have chills, but I wasn't really physically afraid. It would just like of course, you get a little chill, and then because fear. If you fear, you don't believe in God, because when you die, you're going to a better place, hopefully, or get reviewed or whatever. But I'm not really afraid of dying. I haven't been since those things were in the house. So I'd say fear means you don't truly believe in God. You're afraid of the devil, right? And if you really believed in God and the afterlife, then there's nothing to fear. I look forward to it right now. I can't,
So do I.
I don't
So
want
do
to
I,
say,
John.
yeah, I don't want to say I can't wait to die, because I want to finish out the next 25 years.
Well, I could tell you this: if there's one person I know that's definitely in heaven, is my grandma, who passed a few weeks ago, because she was a Carmelite nun, and she was the most holy person I know
Yeah.
personally.
Sweet.
And
Now, Holly here has a question. Then why wouldn't there be more activity if everyone who died left behind energy?
that's a good question. And
Well,
Yes, it is.
my
it's a good
my
point.
input would be, when you leave energy behind, maybe it doesn't all stay in like the ghostly form.
Mm-mm.
Is it possible? Because say somebody dies, and then somebody gets a pet, but there's just some kind of weird connection they have, and
Right.
and then people will associate that with, is it that energy crossing into that? We don't know. It's hard to give a definitive answer. The only thing we could do is just keep searching for answers, and
Exactly.
have theories and everything
But
of
I
that
did
nature.
like what Russ said the one time. He goes something about when I die, okay, then I'll find out what all this nonsense is about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What can we do? What can't we do? Stuff like that. And maybe we can somehow get a hold of Jason's EVP and just relay messages back to him.
Only
You
through
know what I
the eye.
mean?
In two of my books, the last two I put in there, only through the eyes of death will you know the truth. That's the final ending of it.
Well,
But
I believe that. I you know, I'm looking forward to dying. I am, but when it's come, it's going to come because it was written in the book when I was born. What day I was going to die. That's from
you
what I was
know
told.
you know when you're going to die.
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
Only God does. But
Yeah.
That could have been a great Halloween trick if you just had like a blood capsule in your mouth, popped it, and just fell over after saying that.
that would be sweet.
But
Now,
no,
Silver Moon,
hold on,
Silver.
hold on. Going back to that question, though, I think that there is a lot of ghostly activity when somebody dies. If you really would have asked people, has anything ever happened at the funeral hall, stuff like that? I remember when my father died. It's like they said, "Who wants to get up and say a few words?" And neither my brother, my sister, or I got up, and it was like a long pause there. And I'm telling you, boy, all the lights, they dimmed. And my brother said to me, "See that? He's here,"
Hmm.
because he was getting angry over the fact that nobody's getting up saying nice things about him.
What do you
My
think
nephew.
about the white feather thing? Because here, I had two experiences with this year that completely separate incidences. So my oldest dog, he passed away Father's Day night this year, right? And his bed used to be next to the bed, and I had like a T-shirt on there that I used for his blanket and everything. Well, after he passed, I think it was the next day, I found a white feather. I have no clue where it came from. Just laying
Wow.
right there on the shirt, right? So I'm
Hmm.
like, I believe it, but I don't fully, I know some people are really into it. Well, here's something interesting. So a few weeks ago, I was at work, and we were little further up north, getting picking up a machine that my boss just got and everything. We're tearing it down. So I was operating the forklift. It was like one of those telescoping ones, like the big JLG ones, and I was just sitting there, and this was right after my grand passed, and I was just sitting there. I had a couple minutes, while they were doing their thing, and I was thinking about my grandma and stuff, and the same exact style of white feather that I found when my dog passed just came floating,
Oh
like right
wow.
past my head, like right in my line of sight, just right past me.
Hmm.
And I was just like, "Is that you, Grandma? Are you here right
Where did
now?
it end
Making
up?
sure I don't get hurt doing this or what?"
Hmm.
you know, it was just really strange because there was no birds around, there was nothing,
Huh.
and I'm like, "Where did this come from?" It was really cool.
I tell you too, when my cousin died, he was a last January. He was a two-star general, so I went to the Air Force Academy in Colorado, right? So we did all the stuff, and I got up to say a few words. I talked about how funny he was. The Frank Casarino I knew was like a comedian. He laughed at everything. And growing up, was everything was funny. And I said, I don't know how this guy was a navigator on the space shuttle, a two-star general and a big engineer in the defense contractors. But the guy I knew laughed at all the time. So I kind of made it funny. I got home and I pulled into the top of my driveway. It was icy because it was January. So I didn't normally I just go down the driveway, but I couldn't chance it. So I went through the front door. So I went to let the dog in. I opened the door and the dog comes running in. My garage door was open.
Huh.
Open. There is no way I was gone for 3 days and the garage door was open that whole time. I am absolutely convinced that my cousin, either they allow you to do something, he said, let's prank John. And I guarantee you what the prank was supposed to be, and maybe my father was standing there and other relatives, and his father, was that John comes down the driveway and the garage door opens for him before he presses the button. And I would have said, "Holy Moses, how did that happen?" But my dog didn't run away. It is impossible that that garage door was open while I was away because my dog, he's a runner. He would kill the neighbors' dogs and stuff. 108-pound Doberman. But I actually walked to the door and put my hand through to see, am I hallucinating? Because it was surreal. Couldn't be. And I put my hand out. I said, yeah. And I closed the garage door. But see, again, he pranked me because I talked about how he was a prankster. And I got home and he pranked me. There was no doubt about it. He
Nice,
pranked me.
very nice.
uh,
Yeah.
Now, Silver Moon has a couple things she written. Some people convince themselves they are sick. They get sick. There's been history of women having false pregnancy because they are convinced they are. Maybe same sort of thing here.
Yeah, that's the power of the mind. I think mind over matter, absolutely. You could
Yeah, they
you
say
look at
like
they
if
give
you could open
people
your third eye, you can do all kinds of crazy stuff.
the
And
Hmm.
we
pineal
only use what,
gland,
like 10% of our actual brain,
the power,
something
yeah.
like that,
But the pineal gland controls all of that. But you give somebody a placebo, right? And they get better. So same
right?
thing. You think this is going to cure me, and it does.
Right. Then she comes in. This just an interesting topic. What does Sean think of child spares? Why would they be stuck here if they are so innocent? And I got the answer for you on that one. A while back, um, we were doing a house over in Green Tree, and there was a car accident that killed the mom, the dad, the brother, and the little girl. There was four of them right in front of the house. And here, the people that the clients that we went to see, all this stuff was being thrown, not thrown hard, but little innocent stuff, and they couldn't put their finger on it. And so I came over and with a couple others, and what we did was come to find out that the little girl was here on their plane or our plane, and she was looking for her parents and her brother, which were already up in heaven. So that's the best answer. I guess the way I look at it sometimes, and I don't know what you guys think about it, but I really believe that once you die, you still have that choice if you want to go to the light or not.
Yeah.
What do y'all think?
Yeah, I think you get to choose. But here's what I wonder. If you don't go, maybe you don't get to go. You're stuck here then for a century, you
Eternity.
know? Yeah, or just maybe you're stuck for a really long time. But I think if you don't go right then, you may get stuck. And a lot of people get stuck.
What do you think, Jay?
Uh, you know, I mean, you might have the option to go. Other than like the religious folks that believe in heaven or hell. I believe they might have a lot better chance of going directly to either. But a lot of people that don't believe in anything or whatever, do they have the choice? We don't know for a fact.
True.
Like you said, the only way we'll find out is one day when we're all looking at the end of the tunnel.
But I think when you die,
The
I
light.
think when you die, though, a spirit guide or somebody will be there, a relative, and the light will be there, the tunnel, and they'd say, it's your time. Do you want to go through, or do you
Um,
want to stay here and see what happens to your kids and grandkids? And so people are so attached to their house and their stuff, and then I want to see what happens to my wife, and they end up staying.
yeah,
I don't
exactly.
think a lot of people would say, "Ah, screw them, I'm going."
But
you know,
but there was a lot of people that I've known, like their mother deceased or their father's deceased, and they would tell me the story to where they would be laying in bed, and they're like, you know what I mean? Like they're talking to their brothers and sisters, husbands
yeah.
and wives, and then they pass. So it's like, yeah, they did come down on it.
I
Holly goes, when I was about 5 years old, my granddad died. And at the funeral home, my cousin made me touch his hand and told me if you touch the dead person, they won't come back to haunt you. What do you think, guys?
I think that's interesting, and I don't know. Me personally, I don't think touching the deceased body is going to determine if somebody comes back to haunt you or not. Now, I wouldn't exactly, say it's a loved one, like the grandfather or something. You had a good bond with them, and if they come back to see you, it might not be as like a haunting. They might just be coming in to check on you, or try and let you know that they're in a better place. Or just overall looking out. Like I said, I've never heard that one before, so I don't know if that could be true or not.
I
If you
never
touch them,
heard
they
that
won't come
one
to
either.
haunt you.
yeah, I,
Because
did-
I
I
think because at that point, unfortunately, it's just you know a body. The soul and
Hmm.
spirit's gone. So I don't
Now,
think.
Silver Moon comes back and said about her question before, but wouldn't God step in to help? This is for you, John. But wouldn't God step in to help? It's a child after all. That's where my religious questions come in.
no, God gives you free will. He's done
Even
creating.
as a child?
Well, it's free will, but the thing with kids that bothers me is that I read recently that children that die before being born go to hell because
Huh?
they.
What?
I You can look it up. That's the old mythology that if child dies, stillborn kids or aborted kids, th- that kid soul goes to
Where
hell.
did you research this?
Yeah,
Look
please.
it up. Look it up. Google it. That's what
Yeah.
it said. Yeah. I
What
mean, I don't
demonic book
agree
on your
with
shelf
that.
were you reading?
No, I don't agree with that, but that's what I read.
Nah. Wow. Wow.
Bothers me big time.
I
Okay.
think part. Yeah, that's wow. I'm gonna have to
See,
Google that when this
as far
show's
as I
over.
know, if something like that happens to children, that's a one way ticket to heaven. God takes
Yeah,
them right
that's why I
back.
look at it.
That's
Yeah,
just from
you
my
would think that
understanding.
it's not the kids, but then again, you know what though? What's the Catholic thing about if you die before being baptized? These kids haven't been baptized,
But they
right?
haven't
Don't
been
they
given
say
a
you go
chance
to hell
either.
if you won't go to heaven if you're not baptized?
But they
That's what
weren't
they
even
Right.
say.
born. That's the
Well,
thing.
that's their problem, you know. But they weren't baptized. They
At
can't
that.
go.
I'm sorry.
I'm
I'm gonna have
disagreeing
to.
with you.
Yeah.
Okay, here he goes. Silver Moon comes back and says, "This is for you, John. The Bible states frankly that children and those not given the chance to know the Lord are without sin and would go to heaven. We only receive sin after we are born.
True
No,
facts.
you have original sin, and you need to be baptized to wipe
Well,
that away. So you have sin. You
okay,
have
now she comes back and says you don't need baptized because you are born without sin.
no, you're born with original sin.
What original sin of being born?
What's original sin,
What do
John?
you talk? What is original sin? I'm
Look
curious
it
here.
up. Go tell hey
Well,
Silverback,
if
whatever
you're
your
telling
name
me
is.
about it, what is it?
Look
So
up original sin. Look up original sin.
I
this
don't
is
know.
like, I don't know.
Nah,
I'm going to
because
have to Google
that's
that one.
innocence until you're born, and
Hmm.
and then sin gets created after that.
He's going to check it out. There we
Oh,
go.
here we
I'm
go.
gonna give you the exact wording.
I'm no. Mm-mm.
Yeah. Sorry, John. I'm disagreeing
Original
with you on
sin
that
is
one.
the Christian doctrine that holds that humans, through the through the fact of birth, inherit a tainted nature in need of a. Come on, give me the rest of it.
So basically, after you're born,
We're,
This is after you're born. So kids that
we're,
aren't born, that's a good. I don't know. You know,
yeah, yeah,
isn't the
yeah.
original sin Adam and Eve's sin against God? Isn't that
Yep,
the
original
original?
sin. Yes,
I
says that
think it is.
because of the sin of Adam and Eve, innocence is lost, and all human beings are born into a state of sinfulness.
Then she comes back and says, in the fact of birth, John.
Yeah. In fact, what about birth?
Well, she's, you're reading it, and then she's coming back at you in the fact of birth, John.
Well, I didn't write these things. I'm going to tell you what I
But
read.
here's a question for you, John. That's Christianity. What
Yeah.
if you're not Christianity? What if you're not a Christian, right? And
I don't know what
you
the other
refuse,
religions.
and then you refuse to baptize your kid. Now,
I don't think these other religions get baptized. I think it's just Christians. Uh,
right.
so I don't know what Buddhists and them think. Yeah, I don't. I have no idea.
If anybody in the audience knows the answer to that, and you're of a multiple or different religions, let us know your thoughts.
Yes, please do.
We're
Let us know
curious.
your
This is an
thoughts.
interesting debate.
Hmm. But see, but I'm with Jay on that one. I really believe that if you're stillborn or you are
Yeah,
going
it's innocence.
to
God takes
heaven.
you back.
It's a given.
You haven't been given a chance to do sin.
Right.
It's innocence.
Exactly.
Like
And
why
God
would
bless the
God turn you
mom
away
when it.
for innocence?
How about the parents? How do you think they felt? I'm sure they feel guilty that they did something wrong, that God made that happen. Who knows? We will probably never know, to be honest with you. Speaking of children, how's little Jet there, buddy?
He's sleeping right now.
He's sleeping. Uh-oh.
Yeah, he's getting big.
Okay, here we go. This is good, John.
Oh, here we go.
What if
Yeah.
this is from Silver Moon? What if there are multiple gods, and as long as you are true to your own, you go to your religion idea of heaven?
Well,
Interesting.
if you're Hindu or Buddhist, they have multiple gods, and Christianity is one God, always has been. There's one God, so you would have to believe in Eastern philosophy, not Western Christianity.
But yeah, but that's what you did. Are you okay with that answer there, Silver Moon? If not, come back. We're enjoying this.
Yeah,
We
look,
are.
babies that haven't been splashed with holy water bear original sin, which makes them ineligible for joining God in heaven. That's what I've always heard. So that's why you don't abort
Well,
them.
hey, I heard that Jeffrey Dahmer went potentially, more than likely, went to heaven because he found the Lord at the last minute. So how
Well,
could he do it and kids wouldn't?
well,
Yeah, that's a good question, Jay. What do you think of
because
that, John?
Yeah, he
because
found God at the last minute, and
if it's real, there's a lot of people who find God in the final hour, right before the electric chair, and say, "I'm reborn. I believe in God." But trust me, God knows in your soul if you still had one at that point. whether he was remorseful, regretful, and actually did believe. And technically, if he did go through something there in prison and
Well, he
repented,
did. He was going to church and
well, then
he got into it.
he probably went to heaven then.
So that means that definitely all the babies went to heaven. Definitely. They had to have.
Well, it just said here that if you weren't baptized, you don't go to heaven. You can't get in if you're not baptized.
I mean,
So I don't know. I don't know.
but that's what they say. And you know what? Honest to God, being raised Catholic for so long, it's just drilled into your head. And
I know. How do they know though? They got their thing to keep the corporation
ah,
going. I don't
good.
know.
Anna Youngott said something here. I thought Christianity had three gods: the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost.
Yeah, but they're all part of God. The Father, Jesus is the Son of God, but he's God also, right? And the Holy Ghost is that spirit thing, which I really don't get a whole good answer from people. What is the Holy Ghost? What is grace? What is that actually? But it's a spiritual form. But it all goes back to God.
Okay, but yeah, I don't know. I ever since I started, chasing prophecy, my eyes opened up to things that were taught to me that aren't really true, that I was raised with.
Yeah. Well, you can question everything.
How about
I
you,
was
Jay?
raised Catholic.
And how do you feel being on chasing prophecy for so long? Of all the different things that you have heard, have you ever um, come to say, well, I don't believe what I was taught? Has that ever happened to you?
I feel like man themselves have twisted a lot of things and put their 2 cents into it from what it actually probably should be. Being on here, it's crazy, because like you said, growing up a Catholic, there's no such things as ghosts or whatever. And then you experience it and you're like, well, wait a minute. What was
Exactly.
that then? What was that? And you start to, your mind just starts to wander. It's
Mm-hmm.
wondering like what's out there, and like just keep an open mind about it. Doesn't mean turn against anything. I'm still
Right.
Catholic, everything, but I have questions just like anybody else.
Yeah, especially for priests. You know.
The thing with people, though, is they're very easily influenced. And, when you make a compelling argument, people say, oh, yeah, that sounds, and then they can follow that. And I think you have to be very careful not to be deceived. And, we know that the devil is a liar. Everything he says is a lie. That's what he does. So you got to be careful not to be deceived and then repeat those lies. And then, you're just a fool at that point.
Okay, Silver Moon, taboo question. This is a taboo question. How accurate do each of you think the Bible is, and why? If not, why do we think it's so closely followed? I, I, I call it the book. I don't call it the Bible, and that's only me. But come listen to my show at 11 o'clock into the night with Sean Kelly, and I'll be more than happy to tell you about how I feel about it. Go ahead, John Jay.
Well,
Well,
let us in a little bit. Come on, you can't leave us
yeah,
hanging with a cliffhanger like that. We got time. Let's hear some.
Oh,
Let's hear some of your thoughts. There's three of us.
my thought on the Bible, it's just it's all full of crap. It's a bunch of here's where it really bugs the
And
crap out
that's
of
when
me.
lightning came through the window and took Sean
Yeah, it
Kelly
did.
out.
I'm waiting for it. Windows open. Don't have to break no glass. But here in the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. This is real quick. In Matthew, Judas wasn't even mentioned in that one. In come Mark, he slowly comes into the picture. Being a friend of Jesus. And then Luke, they start talking about the friendship between Jesus and Judas. Then comes John. Now, here's what's the killer. John was written 96 years after Christ died. Okay? And who killed Jesus was the Judeans, the Jewish people. Okay? So, whoever wrote that book took his friend Judas and they took the Judean because the names are almost exactly the same thing and blamed him for the 30 pieces of silver. And how can you write something 96 years later blaming somebody and whoever wrote it was probably never around when it happened?
Well, the books that are in the Bible, John, Luke, Matthew, etc., they have verified the authors on that. Otherwise, they wouldn't be canonized and be in the Bible. So either John lived to 115, you
No,
know,
I don't think he did.
or he told the
You know
story.
what? I'm gonna Google that right now,
You
buddy.
did, but all of the that's why the other books are not in the Bible. Thomas and Mary, they're not in the Bible because they don't know who the authors were. They showed up, but who wrote this? They found it with the Dead Sea Scrolls, but they don't know who the author was. But John could
St.
have told.
Thomas was. St. Thomas was.
Yeah, but they don't think he wrote the Gospel of Thomas. They haven't been able to verify that anyway anywhere. But so maybe John told his to somebody who told it to somebody, and but they have a line there that they can follow from other documents and say this is the gospel of.
Again, it's just a bunch of gibberish, a bunch of I don't know.
It's not true though. The 66. Well, look, you got to
You better
question
turn the
how
furnace up in there, Sean, and get
66
ready.
I am.
66 different the 66 different authors of the Bible. 66. So how did they all
Ah,
get it right, you know? But I'll tell you one thing that was done, Bible code, and you can look that up, Bible code. A guy in Israel created a computer program where he applied, numbers, zeros and ones and all of that to, I think what he did is he took the alphabet and then each letter, A is one, B is two, C is three, etc. He created a computer program and then he then ran things through that program and he compared it to War and Peace and Gone with the Wind, which were about the same number of words and letters and lines as the Holy Bible. And then he looked for prophecies in these three books. There was only one in Gone with Wind, one with the other one I said War and Peace that showed up. And what it is, it could be wording that's diagonal, backwards, whatever that matches up with something like JFK killed, shot. That would be on the page, but don't have to be in a row. It could be diagonal, it could be backwards, that type of thing.
Just like
But
you
then
could
when
play a
they
record
they
backwards and get
well,
subliminal
yeah,
messages.
yeah. But
yeah.
when they did that, so there was only one in the other two books. When they did that with the Bible, there's like 100 different things that they found that actually came true.
Okay.
Different things like that came true. And they say that anything you want to know about the future is actually in the Bible if you know what question to ask or how to ask it, and they can run it through that program. So the Bible it's a very special book. And when I talk to the real Catholic people, Christians, they say every single thing in the Bible is true and it was inspired by God through these people to write. They got inspired. God's given them the ideas and they're writing and everything's true. I don't know. I don't know if it is or not, but
Ah,
I wouldn't mess with it. I wouldn't
Silver
defame
Moon's
it and
killing it
mess
with
with it.
really good
yeah.
points here.
Yes, but okay. Silver Moon has 2 points, but the authors were just that men. Humans are corrupt, and the Bible even states it. Couldn't these authors have written their version of the events? Whoa, hold on, Silver. Written their version of events and not exactly capitals what God instructed. Then, when she came back and said, didn't we just consider the ghost maybe a conspiracy? We convince ourselves makes sense. Can't the Bible be stories, but we convince ourselves the conspiracies are real?
I think that the greater, yeah, there could be exaggeration in it because look, if I want something to be true, I can add a little bit to it and make it be more than what really happened. That happens every day on television news and newspapers, and the internet. Everything that is totally spun out of control. But I think the greater chance is that the Nicene councils in 325 and 379, I think they were, when they put the four gospels together and all of that, there's a chance there that things were rewritten to get the whole company, wording correct. And they were put together. They could have been rewritten at that point too. So I mean, that's possible. But that's why I don't take every single thing in the Bible to be 100% true. Because I'll be honest with you, Jesus said a lot of nasty things about women. He really did. And that's in the Bible. There was a lot of times he said to, like, he didn't say knock your mother over, but push her out of the way. She's not God. He said a lot of nasty things about
Mm.
females. So I
So,
don't I don't know, and that could be, hey, one of those guys, Paul, could have been gay, and maybe he didn't like women, and then he wrote things that were his feelings. I don't know, because when you read Paul said, unless you're lusting for females, you should stay single and be celibate. Which is, I think, that's what he said. He said it's better to be celibate unless you cannot control your lusts, then find a wife so you can act them out. That's pretty much what he said.
so
But
real quick
I
before
don't
I
know that
have
I
to
agree with a lot of things that he says. I don't
before I got to
particularly
jump
like
off
Paul.
here,
Yeah.
because unfortunate 3 o'clock is a very very early time. No wonder it's the witching hour because you wake up and you're like a friggin' zombie.
Mm.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about something really cool that happened to stumble across, and it's not far from the Mon Valley area. It's out towards Connellsville or somewhere back there. Did either of you guys ever hear of Betty Knox?
No.
Mm-mm. No,
I didn't either until a couple days
I heard of
ago.
Johnny Knox, Johnny
Well,
Knoxville.
so anyways, there's this road, this dirt road. It's called Betty Knox Road, and it's scary. It's right in the woods. There's nothing, and they have like there's a big creek there, and they stock it with trout, and you can go fly fishing and everything, catch and release, whatever. I'm not a fisherman, but anyways, you get to the end of the road, and there's a gate, and you can actually walk across the creek very carefully, bouncing rock to rock, and there's this path through the woods. Now, before I get into what we found, I have a little bit of the backstory. Uh, so Betty Knox, her mother died when she was like 3 years old. So her father raised her as a farmhand until he passed away. And as she was growing up, and one of her duties was to take the grain from local farmers to the mill and everything of that nature. And she did this for years upon years upon years. Now this is on that road. This is why it's called Betty Knox Road. So one day she just disappeared. Never, nobody knows where she went. There was no signs of leaving, nothing. Just up and gone. Well, apparently 3 years later, some people found the skeleton of an ox chained to a tree in these woods right off of this trail or road or whatever you would like to call it. And the thing was, she never chained her animals up, from our understanding. That's what the history's saying. Like she
Hmm.
would walk her animals. She never chained them up. So nobody knows what happened to Betty Knox. But the creepy thing is, in these woods, on this road, and like I said, it's scary. I was there. It's scary. Like I'm getting heebie-jeebies thinking about it. You can actually sometimes hear screaming, a female screaming somewhere out in the middle of the woods. It could be during the day. It could be in the middle of the night. Nobody knows. And what made it even more creepy, so I'm really getting goosebumps now. We were walking up this road, and legend has it that there's a cemetery somewhere up there, and there's also an old furnace. Guys know what the old furnaces were, where they would
Yeah.
like cut the forest
Yeah.
out and all that stuff. Well, there's an old furnace way up there somewhere, but there's also an abandoned cemetery, a very very small abandoned cemetery. So we're like, is this real or not? And people said, you should be able to see it if you're walking up the road. So we're walking up, and We didn't see it. I mean, we probably went back probably about a football, half a football field, maybe 50 yards up. We didn't see anything because people were like, "Oh, you should see it about 20 yards up." So we're looking. We're looking. We had flashlight, nothing. On the way back, we're like, well, we better head out. It's getting pretty late. It's like 9 o'clock at night. We're walking out, and I just had this weird hunch, like almost like something was just grabbing me on my back to
Hmm.
look left. So I look left, and I kid you not, I look left, point my flashlight, and right through the trees, I see a tombstone. I was like, hold
Oh.
up. I think I found it. I see a tombstone. Wouldn't you know it? We went tromping through the woods there, the weeds and the brush. We found a tombstone with a name on it and a message. And then there was like a bunch of little like rocks that were placed as unmarked grave tombstones.
Right.
And we're
Hmm.
like, are these supposed to be here? And you could actually feel the ground where it's sunk in the form of the
Okay, that's
grave.
old. That's old.
So it
That's
was
old.
super creepy. That's in the middle of the woods. And, between people claiming they can hear screaming, ox bells, and all kinds of craziness, uh, we're definitely going to investigate it really soon.
Are
Where's
you
that
So I'm
gonna?
located?
What?
curious.
You know, it'd
And
be pretty cool if you could set up some static cams out there, dude.
we're gonna go. I have a plan put together, and hopefully we can get something really cool because that's a place I haven't seen anybody do anything about it or with it or even
I don't
know
think
about it. I
nobody
didn't even
knows
know
about
about
it.
it.
I don't think
You know.
nobody knows about it.
Where's it
Yeah, that
located?
I
What
didn't even
town?
know. I was like, what? Because I was out that way, and my buddy's like, hey, check us out. I was like, what? What do we got here? So we went up there, and I was like, oh, here we go, next
Gotta come.
investigation. That'd be like like Blue Mist Road on steroids, I guess, kind of thing. Because there's like a cemetery there in the woods, just all by
Yeah.
itself. It's like, how did it even get there? Like, who would even know it's here? You don't even know it's
Right.
there. Like, the only way I saw it is because all the leaves are off the trees for the most
Hmm.
part, and all the
Oh
brush is
wow.
dying, or else you'd never seen it. And I was like, holy smokes, that's crazy,
Hmm.
absolutely crazy. So
What
I'm pretty
town's it
excited.
located in?
Uh,
That'd be Fayette, wouldn't it?
Connellsville, out somewhere out there. Like I don't know the area that well to give
Yeah.
you the exact like township names or whatever. But I think the guy's name on the tombstone was Harry Cook, and I think he had something to do with the furnace, or that might have been his son's grave or something. There's a whole backstory. I was
Wow.
trying to read up on it, so we're gonna check it out, and hopefully I can report back with some
That'd be
excellent
nice.
results. Yeah,
Looking forward to
I'm
that.
getting freaked out just thinking about it because the woods
Mhm.
scare me. I don't know what scares me more, the woods or like bears and maybe psychos that could be in the woods. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
Uh,
oh,
Bears. Oh, Gene W says it's in Dunbar.
Dunbar. Dunbar it is. So,
But
but I just wanted to share that with you guys real quick. It's that time. The second hour's starting, so I'm going to bounce out. So
all
unfortunately,
right,
I have to get up before the sun even decides to
all
start
right,
waking
brother.
up.
Good night to you.
we got to start at 7 instead of 9. That's what we got to do.
Yeah, so we're all old timers. So we can all go to bed
Go to bed
at a
early,
decent
yeah.
hour. Yeah.
All
But
right,
I got to
man.
make
Be
sure,
safe
Sean,
tomorrow.
that I don't ever take you to this Betty Cook's because you'll scare all the spirits away.
Yeah. Uh, I'm retired.
I gotta get some awesome results. All right,
All
guys,
right. Talk to you
listeners, have
later.
a good night. Hopefully, everybody enjoyed it, and I'll see
Yeah.
you guys next week.
See you next week, brother.
Peace.
Peace. Before we go on, John, our second hour of our show, we are sponsored by Carnation. And I want to thank Carnation for sponsoring our second hour of the show. Um, I like the Carnation instant breakfasts, especially the chocolate ones. You know, when I was a young whippersnapper, I used to have those before school. So, but now it's tea or coffee for me. Ah, John, now it's me and you.
That's it.
So we
It's,
talked about ghosts, and I was thinking, you know, in order to get you involved too, but you were pretty well involved tonight, which was pretty cool. If someone would come up to you and say, and you were with MUFON, okay, and they came up to me and say aliens are a bunch of crap. I don't believe in them. And what would you have to tell them?
Well, I would tell them that technically there is zero proof that aliens are real. There's no bodies, no bones, no DNA. There's a lot of stories, eyewitness testimony, abductions with their stories, videos, photos, but to meet scientific, you know, there's no proof. There's no proof.
Hmm.
It's unproven that there's life in space. No UFO has ever been seen approaching Earth from deep space. They've been seen around the moon, supposedly, and with the STS, the NASA, the satellites have picked up stuff, but there's never been any seen, picked up deep coming, like they pick up these asteroids that are far away. There's never been anything like that. So I would have to say with them, I cannot. I could tell you all the stories and stuff, but I can't prove to you that aliens are real. And in 2018, I put a $30,000 reward out. This is serious. I put a $30,000 reward out for alien blood, DNA, a piece of a craft that could be examined and said that these elements don't belong on Earth. And nobody came forward and claimed the $30,000. So, I'd have to say at this point there is no scientific proof that aliens are real.
Now, whenever you first joined MUFON, did you have the exact same thought?
No, because I knew no, I was 41 and I knew absolutely nothing about UFOs. So when I started reading and getting educated on it, there was a lot of stories and government documents from, military people, generals, all these people talking about the possibility and the reality. But you know what? Who knows if these documents are genuine? The
Right.
UFO people go and authenticate the documents and say, yes, MJ12 is real, the Twining memo is real, this one's real, that one's real. But they want it to be real, so they say it's real. So, I don't know if those are real. So in the beginning, I completely bought into all of this stuff because high level people and generals and majors and captains were all saying that. But who knows if that's the truth or not? So
Right.
I argued for years up until 2014. I was probably the biggest proponent out there vehemently that UFOs are real. And,
Okay.
I did the Anderson Cooper show and I was 100% sure that they were. I would not even question it. And any of my lectures, I would stand there and say, what's it going to take for people to understand this is real? And I'd say, this general said this and this and this and this, all of these documents, but there's no real way of knowing if those documents are real. So I don't know. The thing could be an entire CIA, op to cover our secret space program and
Hmm.
military weapons, and it could be the greatest lie in history. I don't know.
Um,
There's no way of knowing.
well, for being on the show for like 3 years and talking to the ufologists and people from MUFON, um, and the way the government's handling, I think it's just like a smokescreen.
It
Holly came,
appears that way.
yes, Holly said she wrote because they travel intradimensionally. Do you
Yeah.
believe that?
Yeah. Well, I had said my opinion changed over the time and said the people are seeing something. I don't question them. About 10% of the cases are hoaxes, but they're seeing something and they're experiencing something. And, there's some trace evidence left behind, radiation, boron, different things. So, I mean, it is real, but I have concluded with a lot of other people that have spent years in the field and it took them a long time to get there too, that they say it's interdimensional, and,
Okay.
I agree with that. Jacques Vallée says that. Hynek said that at the end. There was John Mack. There was a whole bunch of people. I have a list in one of my presentations of the ones that said this is not from space. It's something that comes through a dimension.
Okay. I mean, it's and also people are saying too that Bigfoot and UFOs are kind of related. What do you think?
There are some cases, and it may only be 1 or 2%, of the UFO cases that a Bigfoot has seen. We talked about Presque Island by Erie and Uniontown. Presque was 1966, Uniontown 1973. They were two of the most famous cases of a UFO hovering and a Bigfoot being right there. But it doesn't happen a lot. There are cases like that, but it doesn't happen a lot. But again, I'd say that that's all interdimensional or shapeshifters. I think the Native
Okay.
Americans got it right
Right.
that
Yeah.
those any creature you see is a shapeshifter with the ability to become anything it wants to and show you anything it wants to. A gray, an alien, a Bigfoot, whatever. It's just a shapeshifter, and the Native Americans experienced that for years. Philly has hit 5 home runs so far. It's 7-0. They've hit 5 home runs.
Okay. 30, but what's the score?
7-0 Philly, and
Philadelphia is winning 7-0 in the World Series,
I
and
can't see the
I call
inning.
that's bad karma on Houston because they cheat.
Well, you
You
know what
know.
happened? Harper uh, picked something up on the pitcher. He hit a 2-run homer to start the game, and then he went over to the other players and he told them something, and four more guys hit home runs. So
Hmm.
he picked something up in his delivery that gave away the pitch, and they looked
Okay.
for it and they hit home runs off of McCullers.
Sweet.
So
Now
there you
back
go.
back to the show.
Yeah,
That was just a little intermission, ladies and gentlemen.
yeah.
But you were talking about shapeshifters, right? Okay. Now there's probably somebody out there listening to our show right now, or watching or listening, that really don't understand what a shapeshifter is. Would you like to explain it to them?
Well, my opinion is it's a demonic entity that can materialize and become anything it wants to become.
Hmm.
It has the ability to morph and become anything. So, this demon can show itself as an angel. It can show itself as a relative of yours. It can show itself as a werewolf. A Bigfoot or a gray alien. It has the ability to manipulate energy and stuff and show itself as any creature it wants to. But I think those are all demonic entities, all of
Okay.
them.
And I respect what you say, what you just said about that. There are times when I'm like, whenever I'm gold panning, or I'm out in the woods of some sort, and I see some weird looking animals. Okay, and I'm thinking, oh, this is not Chernobyl. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh, but I'm thinking to myself, you know what? That possibility could be a shapeshifter. You know what I mean? That could be something keeping an eye on me. Now, I'll be honest with you. When I go panning for gold in the creeks, I get nervous. You
Mm.
know what I mean? I always make sure, because I don't know all the different cryptids that are out there. You know what I mean? And everything that I've learned on this show, it kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies sometimes,
Do
if
you
you know what
bring
I
a
mean.
gun with you? Do you bring a gun?
To be honest with you, I don't like guns.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't. I maybe someday I'll go get one because the way the world's going now.
Yeah.
But no, I don't bring a gun. But uh,
Well, I mean, I think you need the gun for a bear, something like that. It's not going to help you with cryptids because they're shapeshifters. You can't kill them.
mhm,
There's a number of cases where people have shot a Bigfoot and it just evaporated,
the
because it's a
right
shapeshifter.
now, you've heard of the missing 411, right?
Yeah,
That guy, what's his name? Um,
David Paulides,
I would like to get him on the show. That would be really cool.
he won't do it.
He won't. Okay,
No,
now he had a YouTube special at the hunting,
yeah,
or something like that. And what's really crazy was there was like two or three cases in that YouTube where everything happened in upstate New York. Okay, two old men were missing. The one guy was out with a hunting crew, and he was sitting on a rock. They came back to get him, and he was no longer there. You know what I mean? It's just like he was gone.
yeah.
And there was another guy that was in his backyard. His wife 1 minute saw him, and boom, she didn't see him again. So how can you explain something like that?
I understand. Fred Saluga told me that Paulides is coming out. He's getting ready, or he has already come out and said that these are UFOs abducting the people. But I don't buy that it's UFOs because, I didn't see his most recent one hunted, but I saw others, and they would find. I think maybe in California they found his backpack, and 100 yards later they found the water bottle. 100 yards later they found his boots
Right.
and his jacket. So that's not a UFO because they wouldn't be dropping that stuff off. Like the guy kept moving or whatever, but then he's gone. So I don't know. I don't know, but I would stick more with the interdimensional on these missing people than saying it's UFOs. But a lot of people think UFOs are interdimensional. So
What was crazy about that for that program that he had was that there was a lot of UFO activity that was happening when those guys were missing.
yeah,
Yeah. So, who knows what's out there? Um, I was thinking of joining MUFON,
yeah,
since I retired from ghost hunting.
yeah. Well, I mean, you'd be a
today's
good
today's
investigator.
the first day of my retirement.
Okay,
My,
good, good. Well,
you
knowing what you know with equipment and all that stuff, you'd be very good with MUFON.
mm,
But the thing
but
you got to keep in mind, MUFON, it's like $150 to join. That you got to buy the book and all of that. When I was there, it was $25, and you
mhm,
get the book and all of that. And they've really increased the prices on it. And there's an issue that I hear from the field investigators. I'm retired, so I'm not with them anymore. Is that the best cases when they come in do not go to the field investigator. They have people who specialize in different type of sightings, and
okay,
that case goes to them. So you might get a UFO landing case in your neighborhood, and then you don't get the case. It goes to some guy in New Jersey who drives over and investigates it. And I absolutely 100% disagree with that.
right.
You know, I,
I
I
agree.
don't I don't want not want to be a member and pay what they're charging. And their conference to go to, it's 2.5 days and it's $329.
Wow.
I do the conference in Philly a day and a half for $99 and you get two meals.
Right.
you know. But I to investigate lights in the sky and never get a good case, and it was like that the last 3 years or so that I was there before I left, 3 or 4 years. But that was, and then later we find out that's when MUFON got involved with the Department of Defense, and all that information was going to Robert Bigelow in Vegas.
Right.
So I can't say at this point that I think MUFON is 100% up and up. I don't. I have a hard time saying that right now, especially when you don't get the cases.
Right.
What's the point of being a member unless you're a specialist?
But see, here's what blows my mind away because we've had some. What's it called? The ERT,
Yeah,
emergency response team.
yeah.
I mean, if I got a UFO and I saw one and it landed, and they send out an ERT, and that spaceship only landed for about 3 seconds and took off again, and they're coming in from New Jersey, right? What's there to see?
Well, the ERT is for abductions. That's what that is. Only people that got abducted, but it would be just somebody else from a different team, and you wouldn't see anything, but there would be trace evidence left behind. First thing they do is take out the Geiger counters and check the area, and then
Hmm.
they would take samples, soil samples, leaves, etc., and they'd send them off to labs, to different labs, and they would take other control samples from a block away and send them too. And like the case I had in Levittown, the leaves had high levels of boron and magnesium, but the leaves in the front of the house and down the street did not. So when
Right.
she said something happened. But they want these specialists to do these cases, and if you do have an abduction, somebody down the street says I was taken, floated out, and abducted, and they did these experiments on me. That's the ERT
Okay.
team, the experiencer response team,
Hmm.
and they would then do the interviews and stuff. And you know who heads that up?
Who's that?
uh, Kathy Martin retired, and George Doc Medich, the guy who pitched for the Pirates and the Yankees, do you remember him?
Yeah,
Go
yeah,
back to the '80s and stuff.
yeah. Hmm.
He came to me 10, 12 years ago and said, I want to join MUFON. I believe all of this. So, I can't say I recruited him, but I developed him. And
Hmm.
and then I said to him a few years ago, 6, 7 years ago, I said, Doc, you're an orthopedic surgeon. Anybody with a medical degree, medical experience needs to be involved with these abduction cases because you look at it from a medical standpoint, you know what to do, certain tests, things like that. So he became part of that ERT team. And when Kathy Martin retired, George Doc Medich now runs the ERT team, a
Oh
former
wow,
Major League Baseball player,
that's
and
crazy.
he's a good friend
I'm
of
sure
mine.
there's a lot of like you said, baseball players, football players, movie stars. They're probably that really do believe in this, and they probably do it on the side. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
they're no different than us. There's a lot of
Yeah.
movie stars who claim to have had experiences or believe in UFOs. But again, they're not doing any investigations. They're just, they're saying what they saw or heard and what their beliefs are. But
And
Muhammad Ali, there was a whole bunch of people, famous people
mhm.
who claim to have seen UFOs.
What would you do? I ask everybody this question that's on the show. I don't think I've asked you this question. But what would you do if you met an alien face to face? What would you do?
Well, it depends. If they look just like me, you'd have to prove to me that you're an alien. But if it
Right.
looked like this guy behind me over here, then I'll take your word for it that you're an alien.
Right.
You
What
know,
would you do though? What would you do?
I would just ask. I probably want to touch them. I'd ask them, "Are you toxic to humans?" I'd want to feel, are they warm blooded? Are they cold? That question about touching a dead body. The only one I ever touched was my father's hand in the, he had his hands, and I put my hand on top of his, and it felt like when you take a piece of chicken out of the refrigerator before you barbecue it. That's
Hmm.
exactly what it felt like, a piece of cold chicken. So I think I'd want to feel it, see what it feels like, shake its hand, as long as it's not toxic. And there have been UFO cases where touching them and the person then died, like of Ebola or something. But that would not be the first thing I would do. The first thing I'd want to know is where you're from. You know, how did you get here? And I think in the top 3 to 5 questions, one of them is going to be, were you created? Did you evolve?
Hmm.
Do you believe in God? And that would absolutely be one of the questions. But that don't mean you can trust them. They may
Right.
have an agenda. So they may tell you, no, there is no God. We've encountered that on other planets, and everything evolves, and or have been, your planet was seeded by us, and now we've returned. I
Hmm.
don't. I'm going to believe him if that's what he says. But
Right.
it's interesting. I read with the Pentagon that I always thought it was the far left people who believed in UFOs, because people said that Hillary Clinton would be the disclosure president, and she actually spent time with Lawrence Rockefeller. The Clintons absolutely believe in UFOs, but I read recently, and it's the first time I encountered it, that it is the far right, like myself, who are God believers, who want the UFO to be real, because we believe if they showed up and that question is asked, the alien is going to say, I believe in God, God created us, because it's
Right.
the only real way it could be there, because it had to be created, you know? So,
Okay.
that
So
was
there
very.
is a tug of war between far right, far left.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I always thought the far left people were the UFO believers, but it turns out it's the far right, because their belief in God is that an alien would confirm that God is real, because the only way to have life in space is creation. God had to put them there, and because we don't believe evolution's true. Life comes from life, and that comes from God.
Okay. Wow. So do you have anything? We still got about a half hour here.
Yeah,
But
I got some cool stuff that I was going to
yeah,
cover.
please do.
Uh,
Yeah.
I put together two lists, and they're in my book. I think it was the string theory of the unexplained. Let me pull that up. And I put a list together. Do you know, should you know the paranormal? And then another, that's 144 questions. And then I put together, do you know, should you know UFOs? And that's 282 questions or bullet points, you know. So I'll go through this, and if anybody in the audience replies, say their answer, you know. So the first one is, what percentage of Americans believe the paranormal's real?
I would have to say my about 70%.
93%.
93. Wow.
Yeah. What? How many say they experienced something paranormal?
93%.
No, 30%.
30%.
Yeah, the rest just believe it, but they didn't experience it. You know.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. What percentage of Americans believe guardian angels have aided them? Their guardian angel has
I would have to go high 90s.
53%.
53.
What
Wow.
percentage of Americans believe that witches are real? And I'm not talking about Wicca. I'm talking real witches that put potions and spells and can influence things.
Um, Lord, I would have to go 60%.
20%.
20%.
Yeah,
Huh.
people don't believe in witches. You know, with that, I think a lot of people find that hard to believe that you could create a spell. But see, what they do is they ask these demonic entities to do these things for them, and then they lose their soul. But they get taken in like that. But if you ask hard enough, they'll do it for you. But there's a price to be paid. You know. What percentage of Americans believe in demonic possession, like in The Exorcist? How many believe that's real? What percentage?
Um, 54%.
42%.
32.
42.
42. I was off a couple.
Yeah, yeah. What percentage have seen a ghost?
Oh, wow. I'd have to say low 30s.
20%.
20%.
What's the most haunted city in America?
New Orleans.
Savannah, Georgia.
Really?
Yeah,
I would have
Savannah,
to say
Georgia.
New Orleans, dude.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's Savannah.
Huh.
I got to go there. It's one of the few places I haven't been. I was just in Georgia for a week, and I didn't get to. Well, that's all the way in the southeast corner of Georgia, over by Hilton Head, actually.
Mm.
Um, what percentage of Americans believe houses are haunted? Haunted houses.
Oh, God. I'm going to say 48.
37%.
I'm getting closer.
How many paranormal societies are in America?
Oh, my God. Three, 400.
4,203.
Oh, my God. Where do you come up with all these?
I've looked them up or come across different articles or surveys, but there is a website out there that is, you can look it up, paranormalsocieties.com.
Mm-hmm.
And I know in Pennsylvania, which would interest you, there's like over 200.
I believe it. Yes.
And you can actually look each one up. You can pull it up by state. And I did this, and I actually put myself out there as a person, a group. I think I call myself the string theory of the unexplained, but I'm listed there. I've had producers from TV shows contact me, looking for people with different experiences and stuff like that. But that's where they go too. But you could look up you click on Pennsylvania, and then you can, if you want to find out what ghost societies and stuff are in Pittsburgh, you could just click on it and you can go right through it. Where are they located? Butler, Washington, Pittsburgh, Greensburg. It's all there. But UFO groups are not like that. It's not as many.
Why
Nowhere.
is that? Why do you think that?
Well, I think because the UFO, I don't think a lot of people have seen them. There's no real proof, although, like then I just said, there's some pictures and a lot of stories. But I think a lot of people have experienced the paranormal, 40%, whatever this all comes out to, have seen something, experienced something, whatever, or a relative has told them something. So, and I think when you go, like you guys do, to locations, you actually do get some evidence. I mean, you could sit in a field with cameras and stuff looking at the sky forever and not see a damn thing.
Right, that's true.
I've never seen anything.
Sebastian Morn wrote, I have seen and felt ghosts, none of them bad, all good experiences.
Yeah,
That's cool. That's
yeah.
good.
Okay. Uh, let's see. How many independent records verify that Jesus was crucified?
How many what?
Independent records from back then.
Oh my God.
How many have they found that verifies he was crucified?
110?
5,843.
Holy crap.
How many witnesses were there to the crucifixion that had at some point came forward and they found in these 5,000 records? How many witnesses?
3,000?
No, over 500 people were there that actually saw the crucifixion.
Okay.
And the difference between Jews, Muslims, and Christians are that the Jews and the Muslims, they believe in the Old Testament, but they don't believe that Jesus was the Son of God or rose again. That's the difference. They think he was just a prophet like Muhammad.
Right. Okay.
In Pennsylvania, if you're selling your house in PA, New York, and New Jersey, let's say, do you have to disclose that it's haunted?
No. Pennsylvania, no.
How about New York and New Jersey?
I would have to say no in New York, yes in Jersey.
Yes, in both New York and New Jersey because they're very liberal. Yeah, so that's
I know in PA there was a couple realtors that wanted me to go investigate houses, that they're about to sell. And this is true. And I said, can't you just tell the people that they're haunted? And the realtor said, no, we can't.
yeah.
So,
In PA, you only have to disclose physical defects like mold, termites, stuff like that, not psychological ones. And there was a case in 2012, Milliken versus Giacano, and in 2012, and they ruled only physical defects you have to disclose.
okay.
What is the language of angels?
Oh, Lord, I don't know, John.
Enochian.
Oh, is that, well, aren't those like the real tall dudes, right?
Is 7 feet tall,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and usually white guys with blonde hair, 7 feet tall. That's how they've always been described, as white, 7 feet tall, and I can't say everyone has had blonde hair or gray hair, white hair, but
Hmm.
and then they kind of have funny eyes to them too. But that's how they've been described. But they speak a language called Enochian.
Now, now I want to know this, and I'm sure my people will know this, our listeners. Is there anywhere that is taught Enochian now, out there now?
I don't know that we have a Rosetta Stone of their language. I don't know. That would be actually a good question to look up. Is Enochian something you can learn? Because if you want to talk to spirits, you should probably learn Enochian and see if you could talk. But I think in different, like they learn a lot of stuff in communicating with spirits and exorcisms and that. But they say that it's Enochian is the name of their language. But I don't know that they have a Rosetta Stone. That's a good question.
Hmm.
So this might be in your area. What's it called when they do some of these rituals and mediums and seances? When objects appear, they kind of fall from the ceiling on the table. They arrive with a popping sound. What are those objects called? What's the name of that when they appear?
Um, I'm
And
sorry.
a lot of times
Oh,
they're artifacts,
oh,
bullets. Yeah.
okay. Silver Moon has a question for you.
What
Why
did
would
you
angels not speak the same language as Jesus, Aramaic or Aramaic?
Aramaic? Because Jesus was born in the Middle East, and that was the language they were speaking. So he grew up learning to speak that language. Like if Jesus was born here now, I guarantee you, if the Antichrist is born in America, he speaks English.
Okay.
But Nokian is what they speak in heaven. But those objects that fall from the ceiling during a séance is called an aport, APORT,
I did
aport.
not know that. I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
know that.
I did my most viewed lecture on my YouTube channel is on the skull experiment. I think that was back in the 60s. But it's really cool, Sean. What we did was Fred Saluga, myself, and Rhonda Vary, who was the woman that helped me when the spirits were in the house. I met her on a dating site, and we became very good friends. And she told me a lot of things I needed to know to combat the spirits. She's done at least a dozen, 12, 14 episodes with me on my YouTube channel. But what we did was at night, we met here in the house, and my cameraman came over, and we set the table up and we reenacted the skull experiment. And I've got almost 4,000 views on that one. And I don't know why people don't watch more of my stuff, because these these shows that we do are freaking excellent. They really are. I mean, I
Hmm.
just put four of them up this past month, and one on Lilith. Uh, I think they're all great. One on the war against God, one on why this disclosure you know, is not true, and there's a dark side to the whole UFO field. I mean, I think all the stuff we put up, or I know very well research it, and then I
Hmm.
do a PowerPoint, and then Fred and another guest maybe, they ask questions,
Now,
but that's
uh,
my best one with almost 4,000 views.
wow. Now, congratulations. But you, um, there are a lot of listeners out there, I guarantee it, and watching the show tonight. That can you explain what the skull, whatever that was called?
Yeah, SCOLE, Skull Experiment. If you go to my website, johnventry dot, it's either .com or .blogspot.com. If you put blogspot.com, it definitely comes in. But I had done something, my publisher, to make sure it flips over to johnventry.com, and you'll find it there, and it tells you all about it. But it was in Skull, England. Four people, they wanted to contact the dead, so they did these, like late night seances to contact the dead, and it worked. And they documented it, they filmed it, and they put you know camera film, like 35 mil, film for a camera. They put that they put it on the table, but they didn't open it. And when these spirits showed up and everything, they later then took the film, controlled the experiment, brought it to Kodak. They printed the pictures, and there were images of faces and people and
Hmm.
hands, stuff, in a box that was never opened and put in a camera. Eight ports, things fell out of the ceiling, bullets, like World War I stuff fell out of the ceiling, maybe bullets from World War I. And then as they got deeper into it, a gray alien like this one behind me showed up, and it was blue. It was blue, and I think they called it Blue Boy or something like that, but it was blue in color. And the further they got into it, they started to realize that they were not dealing with spirits. These were not dead relatives and stuff like that. And the alien, the gray, made them think that they were dealing either with aliens or demonic entities. But
Okay.
it went on for years. They would tour around England, all around Europe, and they would do their seances, and just like stuff would fall out of the air, land on the table. There'd be voices, there'd be different things going on, and they documented it all. It's probably one of the best documented seances, and they probably did it for 7 or 8 years. And
Now, did that when you did your experiment at your house, did stuff fall?
no, because I said to them, what we did was a reenactment, and everything was staged. And I said that up front. I said, I will not do a seance in my house. I will not. have a medium. We're not holding hands. We're not chanting. We're not saying spells or Bible verses or anything. We're just going to go through the things they did, and we pretended to be three of those four people, and we did it. And I would drop something and say, "Look what happened," and stuff like that. And what the one thing I did do is I took this alien right here, and I put him in the other room, right? And I
Right.
closed the door. So as we're doing this, and I didn't tell Fred and Rhonda or my cameraman, I would right like we're halfway through. I said, "Did you hear that?" And they said, "No, I didn't hear anything." I said, "I hear something in the other room." So I walked over, and the cameraman followed me, and the lights were out over there, just low light over here. And I opened it up, and you saw this gray alien standing there, like a couple of feet back. It looked cool, man. It looked cool, like that blue that they had filmed of the alien. So we reenacted, and I tell you, I think we did an excellent show. And
Hmm.
then it's like we did that, and then that only took about 25 minutes or so, 20, 25 minutes. Then I went through some paranormal stuff. When I was in England, where was I? Ireland or Scotland? I bought this little book of the paranormal. So, and then we talked about Mary Shelley,
Yeah.
Frankenstein. How she wrote the story, and I went through this book of paranormal facts. Some of them in this presentation, but yeah, you can look up the skull experiment. I'm kind of surprised that nobody has ever done a movie on it.
Now Silver Moon has wants to come back, and we only got like about 5 minutes left.
Okay.
She goes, "Have you ever come across a group or witness that it became clear that they were telling tall tales or claiming they could do things they couldn't? And how did you handle it?"
Well, I think the tall tales in the UFO investigations, I've come across that. And the best way, I was a certified instructor at UPS in security on behavioral analysis and body language. I would train investigators how to interview and interrogate and watch the person's bodily reactions more so than what they say because they're lying the whole time. But when
Hmm.
you hit on the right thing, you'll get a reaction. They'll fold their arms, they'll tighten their grip on the chair. They'll cross their legs. All of a sudden, you'll see their heart start pounding in their shirt and stuff like that. So, I think that happens. But I'll tell you one thing that did happen was uh, when my girlfriend Colleen was living with me 15 years ago, 18 years ago, we joined. There was a near-death class at Westmoreland Community College. And I said, "Oh, this would be cool. Maybe we could go out and ghost hunt." And he says, "Yeah, we're going to go to a cemetery." And he's got all the equipment. Nick Roy was his name in
Okay.
Greensburg. Did you know he was a speaker at that conference that you were a speaker at in 2008 or 9? He was one of the speakers
Oh,
there,
oh
Nick
yeah, yeah.
Roy.
He's the one that didn't like me.
Yeah, Nick Roy.
Yeah. He didn't like me because I remember he came in and listened to my talk,
Yeah,
and he just walked out the door getting mad.
yeah. Well, we did a couple of classes, and he said we were going to then go out, and he has the equipment. We'll go to a cemetery. I mean, this is something you could do too. And then all of a sudden, these Brazilians from Pittsburgh showed up. There were maybe three, I think three, maybe four. I remember the girl, and the whole mood of the class at WCCC changed. They started talking about they practiced Brazilian macumbe, and they were talking about all this stuff, and you could just see how everything turned really negative. They were
Right.
taking over the class with their ritual stuff and their beliefs, and Nick just wanted to be a ghost hunter like you and said we're going to go out. And I remember, I said to him, "Are we going to go out?" He goes, "I'm not going to a cemetery with these people." He says, "That's forget about it. We're not doing that." And I think he actually then ended the class. There might have been 1 or 2 more weeks, and I think he just ended it because these people from Pittsburgh showed up and they were practicing.
Huh.
The worst stuff to practice, the strongest stuff is voodoo and Brazilian macumbe, African voodoo.
I never heard of the Brazilian Macau. I'm gonna have to Google that.
Yeah, Brazilian macumbe and South African voodoo. That's why when I met that woman in Pittsburgh on a dating site, when I had all that stuff going on in my house, I meet her in Monroeville at a Mexican restaurant, and it's funny how the devil gets people to do his work. I told you this a couple of weeks ago. She's winking and saying, "Oh, you know what? I really like you. I'm going to come over your house, but first you got to invite Olga, the South African priestess, over your house." I said, "What?" She said, "Yeah, I spent a month in South Africa with her, and we did exorcisms." And
Oh,
she, and
wow.
and I said, "And she's here in Pittsburgh from South Africa?" "Yeah, I brought her." The woman brought this woman from South Africa here, and she goes, "I'll be with you, but you got to ask Olga, the exorcist, South African voodoo exorcist, over." And I don't know what I knew what she was going to do. She was going to bring in a very nasty, high level demon into my house. That's what
Right.
they were planning to do. Now, she might have said, "Well, I'm going to clean your house and clear it of spirits and energy." But her intention, which came straight from the devil, was they were going to bring something in here that would be extremely hard to get rid of, that might have launched an attack on me.
Huh. But we got about a couple more minutes left. Listen, everybody, thank you for your questions and your responses to John and me and Jay. And um, real quick, John, what's coming up for you?
Uh, Nothing. I think I'm pretty open this month. I think my son's moving December 1st to St. Louis. He's leaving Irwin, so he's leaving the Pittsburgh area. So I'll be here with no family again, just me, and my family will all be in St.
Well,
Louis,
you
Missouri.
got us, John. Come on,
Yeah, I know, but I'm
you
just
got
saying.
us, man.
But we
You
don't meet
know,
in person and stuff. We're on a show.
well, man, our schedules are also.
But we got to meet because I got to talk to you. I got to make you a reborn Christian.
It ain't gonna
If
happen,
if
brother.
you
You
believe in
can tell
God,
that. You can say that until.
you're not going to heaven then. I can tell you right now. You're
I
going to go to
knew,
the dark side when you
dude.
die.
I knew that already. Then
But
when
you
I
can
started,
change it. You can
but
change that if you want to.
well, I just want to thank everybody for listening. And do you have an update on the score of the baseball game, real quick?
It's still 7-0, top of the eighth. So
Okay.
Houston, that's going to put Philly up 2-1.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah,
All
but
right,
this list,
everybody.
we only got through 13 points, so there's still 130
Oh,
left to go.
Sebastian Murray said, "Great show tonight. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you
You're
for
welcome.
listening."
But let's go through these points in the future because there's a lot of cool stuff here.
Yeah,
Little known,
yeah. We can do like 10 of them every night, every
yeah,
show.
yeah, yeah. Little known facts of the paranormal and then UFOs.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Good night. See you next week, and happy hunting.
All right, see you.
Well, hi everybody. I'm still on. Let me go message my producer, see if he's listening. Let's see. We're done, Joe. Let's see. So I hope everyone had a good Halloween tonight. This past weekend, it was great. Um, I'm just talking here until Joe comes and boots us on. But yeah, so I'm glad everybody enjoyed the show tonight. Um, it was a good show. Got a lot. I've learned a lot of stuff tonight, and I was pretty impressed with it. And I hope every one of you all out there got something to. Maybe you picked up something that you needed to know, or and if you have any ideas of topics that you want us to bring up on the show, feel free to send a message to our Chasing Prophecy Facebook page, Chasing Prophecy Radio, and Jenny will look at it, and then if we can,